So today I'm going to tell you about every mistake that I made and everything I learned on my first real motorcycle road trip. Now I've been reviewing bikes here on the channel since 2019, mid-July 2019 roughly. But there's been one thing that's really lacking in my knowledge that I wanted to gain, and I got the perfect opportunity to do that this past week. I got hooked up with an awesome company, Volunteer Audio, and we were gonna do a collaboration together and do some videos together and show the difference between a stock Harley and what that sound is like, or lack thereof, and the difference that they can do. So those videos are coming up soon, and as a matter of fact, there's a bunch of videos coming on this same topic of road trips and preparation and things I need on my bike that I didn't realize that I needed before, or I thought I didn't need, or the titles would be much better than what I'm saying right now, but you get the idea. Regardless, man, I do a lot of reviews here. I'll be doing a lot of those videos too. Audio comparison as well from Volunteer Audio with the Hertz system that they put in. So make sure you subscribe right here. A lot of content already on the channel and a lot more coming soon. But regardless, let's dive into every mistake that I made on this trip and what I learned. Now, just to set the stage, some of this may sound like complaining, and to be honest with you, I do not want it to come across like that, although it may to some people. This is just raw, hardcore truth, what I learned, what I liked, what I didn't like about the road trip, what I need to do better, and just my straight up opinion. I am like this in my regular reviews too. I'm not going to come across as the guy that just knows everything about everything. I'm going to give it to you raw emotions and how I feel about it. And that's why I'm shooting this video so close or so quickly after I did this road trip, so I can share these kind of raw experiences with you. Now, I have a good friend and his name is Mike, and he actually lives in Tennessee, and Volunteer Audio is in Tennessee. So we rode up on a Sunday, and Mike has ridden in Tennessee quite a bit. And so he told me for 3 weeks going up to Tennessee, buy yourself some chaps, or at the very least, get a pair of long johns, but get some good ones because it's going to be cold. Well, just so you know, I only learn one way for a lot of things, and that's the hard way. Now, the first hour and 15 minutes went perfectly fine, went smooth. I felt a few sprinkles of rain, but I knew there was some rain coming in, so I leisurely put on my rain suit, and I'm prepared for anything at this point. But besides the chaps, here's another mistake that I made. First of all, I forgot my clear visor to my motorcycle. So that was a big mistake because I ran into rain so hard I literally couldn't see. Now I have a set of prescription polarized aviators that I wear all the time, but I literally had to rip those things off and stuff them in my jacket because the rain was blowing in sideways. So forgetting that visor was a huge deal, not only in this part of the story, but later on as well. So what I ended up doing is, because it was lightning and everything else and I couldn't see, is I just ended up pulling over, gave Mike a call. He couldn't find the road that I was actually on, so I just waited the rain out and then met him at his house. From there, we ran into some rain too for about an hour and a half or so. And then from Clinton to right inside Tennessee, absolutely gorgeous. And then the whole conversation of chaps came into my mind, because I'm riding through the mountains and I noticed that there's warm spots and then there's really cold spots. And then there's warm spots and then there's really cold spots. And so it's okay for 20 or 30 minutes. But when I'm riding through Tennessee for an hour and a half, I really start to feel this wind. This wind is getting to me, and not only that, I have still wet boots, wet socks, wet clothes. I didn't zip up my gear all the way inevitably, and that really led to a huge deal. Now, we had dried out a good bit, but my core was still cold. So, needless to say, once I got into Tennessee, the next day, the first thing we did is went to Biker Rags up in Tennessee. Awesome guy, by the way, and I got myself a pair of chaps. So, mistake, obviously, number one, I've already mentioned that in chaps. If you're going somewhere where you're unfamiliar, listen to people that have been there, or better yet, just try to be more prepared than what I was for cold weather. Again, I've ridden in cold weather around here, and I've ridden in hard rain around here in my area, but never for a really long extended period of time. Never to the point where I literally couldn't see in front of me. And I can promise you one thing, the Insta does not do any of this justice as far as what it sees compared to what I couldn't see. Now, you're going to hear a lot of apparel-related mistakes that I made. It's not all apparel, I can promise you that, so make sure you stick around here. But the second mistake I made is not getting better gloves. And this is something Mike specifically told me to do, and I found this out the hard way when I woke up and it's 38 degrees in Tennessee. Now, I'm coming from South Carolina where we're in the 60s and 70s already. It was 38 degrees. It was freaking cold. So, we meet a buddy of his at a Kolbach Harley Davidson, I believe, and I got myself a better pair of gloves, insulated gloves from Harley. So yeah, I paid the premium on them, but thank God that Harley dealer was there so I could not only get the gloves, but I also needed an extra layer. So this is another mistake I made, apparel related. I brought one jacket, that's it, plus my rain jacket. And that was all I brought. So I ended up buying a Willie G really nice jacket from them. But again, I had to pay the price because I didn't listen. The next mistake I made could have been a costly one, but man, thankfully it turned out okay. And this is looking where I wanted to go. Now, this is the first time, the very first time I've ever ridden in twisties, if you will, sharp corners, S-turns, hairpin turns, switchbacks, all of this stuff that I thought I was pretty well prepared for, I wasn't. And so the first real curvy road I actually was on is called the Rattler. It's Highway 209. It's a great alternative to Tail of the Dragon because it's not as busy, but there's 290 curves and 24 miles. And so one of the very first tight turns, I actually let my eyes get away from me for just a split second, and this ended up happening. So I recovered it well, I didn't freak out, but still at the same time, I let my eyes get away from me just that quickly and I was off the road. Now my lines of course could have been better, and on this whole road I took some really good lines and then others not so much, you know, and it had started raining as soon as we got on the road, and it wasn't a hard rain that would basically wash everything off. It was just light enough to kind of bring the oils up in the road and almost sketch you out enough to where you're thinking the back tire may do something a little funky, right? So it kind of played with my head a little bit, and it's just one of those things, man. Now, once I got done with it, and so what I tried to do, because I do have back issues, is what I tried to do is I tried to do injections before I went, but unfortunately the back and forth with the helmet on my head, man, it just locked my neck up, dude. I was in some serious pain. And one thing that I have found out is a backrest and handlebars are a much needed thing. So I was talking to Mike's buddy, whose name happens to be Mike as well, and when he used to ride with the stock bars, you're kind of like the, I mean, you're upright, but you're kind of hunched a little bit. And so by bringing them up to about 14 inches would probably be perfect for my height. That'll let me be more straight. And then of course with a backrest, this is a much needed investment that I have to do. But I'll elaborate on some of the accessories and stuff that I need in a later video. Another mistake that I made is packing related. So anytime we would make a stop, which was quite often just to give my back a rest and be able to walk around and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I couldn't have went with a better person, a more understanding person. And obviously he's a good friend of mine, but he understands because he has back issues as well. But you know, with his backrest, he was able to put in a lot longer miles, but he still was super understanding of the situation. But my inability to pack well cost me a couple of times. If I needed to swap my glasses, which happened to me on the last leg of the trip, the last 40 miles, the last 80 miles seemed like the longest, to be honest with you, but that last 40 was particularly long, right? It was at night, and of course I had to keep my tinted visor, which again, I forgot my clear one. I had to keep that up, so it was pretty freaking cold, and then I had to actually unstrap everything from the back of my motorcycle to then get the bag out to be able to get my glasses, because I didn't pack them in a place where it was easily accessible. So that may be a good thing too. If you have saddlebags and you have to strap things to a sissy bar, keep the things that are accessible to you or that you may need to get to in your saddlebags that are easy to reach. To be honest with you, man, not only have I learned so much from this trip about what it takes to be in the saddle that long. By the way, the Harley seat, the low seat that I bought, did a fantastic job. My butt really didn't hurt at all in that trip. And it actually takes a little bit of padding out of the seat, and it did fantastic. But regardless, I learned, somewhat of being a road warrior, 1,400 miles, and this was over, 4 days or so. So it wasn't, a one-day trip or a two-day trip, but still, when you put that many miles in, man, there's so many things that I can do better and so many things that I have to put on my bike in order to make it more roadworthy. There was times where I was just like, man, I just want to pull over, get a freaking hotel, and be done with this. But the ability to push through and know that I did this trip, man, with a good friend, or if you're doing it solo or you're doing it with a pack of friends, man, it is one of the best accomplishments. My biggest accomplishment personally on a motorcycle, learning how to ride in the mountains at night. This was my first time in the mountains on a motorcycle, and it just so happens that the last hour and a half, roughly, was at nighttime. Now, fortunately, I had the custom Dynamics headlight that I just put on that motorcycle, and I was asking Mike, I was like, hey man, is that thing pretty bright or too bright for you, whenever I'm behind you? And he was like, dude, that thing is freaking bright. So I had plenty of light, and if I had a clear visor, I would have been able to see even better, but the gear, or the lack thereof, not having a clear visor, riding in the mountains for the first time at night, taking these, hairpin turns, or taking corners that I had never really done, these beautiful highways and roads that I got to enjoy the days afterwards, and gaining so much confidence, man, but learning a ton in the process. So there's a lot that I'm going to share with you from this trip as far as what I need to do to accessorize my motorcycle better, how I could prepare better for a next trip. I'm also obviously doing the video with volunteer audio and showing you the difference from what a stock Harley will sound like with the stock speakers to what it sounds like now. And let me tell you, my trip back was way better than my trip up there, because I could actually hear my music and it sounds freaking awesome, man. So there's a lot to cover on this topic, but I just wanted to give you a basic rundown of how this trip went, man. Any of y'all that have taken these long trips, first of all, I respect the hell out of all you guys that do this a lot, or have done it once or twice, whatever, man. It takes a lot to be able to do that, dude. And much respect to all you guys, man. And I appreciate y'all for giving me the opportunity to do these kinds of things. If you want to see more videos like this, man, please consider subscribing, drop a like on the video, share the video with your friends, and let me know how your first motorcycle road trip went and what you learned. I may use some of those things in a future video for myself, or even try your ideas out as well. Big thanks to you guys. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.